Good evening, I'm Hibak Ahmed and this is an edition of news from Dalsan TV English with the latest news from Somalia and across the world. And these are some of our top news headlines. 10 youths belonging to the Iyal were a criminal gang arrested in Mogadishu. Somali entrepreneurs and the international community are to mitigating the severe drought. And the US government says it has donated $700 million for war on hunger as drought ravages Somalia. Welcome to the broadcast. Members of the international community and Somali entrepreneurs have been urged to respond to the severe drought affecting many across Somalia. The federal government has asked for more aid that will be channeled towards responding to the victims of drought in the country.
The federal government of Somalia has appealed for help from donors and members of the international community to help support vulnerable families in the Horn of Africa who are suffering from the effects of the worst drought in 70 years. Over 7.7 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance and protection. More than 3 million of these need urgent life-saving assistance. Malnutrition is surging and has reached emergency levels in some locations, especially among internally displaced people. Across the country, more than 1 million people, 66% of them children, have now fled their homes this year, and thousands more are uprooted every single day. The Minister of Interior, Federal Affairs and Reconciliation of the Federal Government of Somalia, Ahmed Mualim Fiki, on Monday has called on the business people, Somalis and the international community to help in efforts aimed at mitigating the drought. Mr. Ahmed Mualim Fiki was speaking on Tuesday when he was joined by federal member states in a forum in Mogadishu. The forum was aimed at facilitating dialogue between the federal government of Somalia, federal member states and Benadi Regional Administration on the implementation of the local government institute in a federal structure.
ummadda Soomaaliyeed iyo waxgaradka iyo beesha caalamka runtii oo ayaduna qayb ka ah dadaaladaas.
The government is appealing to the friends of Somalia and the international community who have been part of the ongoing efforts to respond to the drought to continue standing with the Somalis who are going through hard times. They have met the business people and we are waiting to hear from them. They have promised us that they will take their role in responding to the severe drought.
Somalia is one of the Horn of Africa's most drought-affected countries, which causes severe suffering to thousands of people. The United Nations World Food Programme (WFP) estimates that the global food crisis has pushed an additional 23 million under-18s into acute insecurity since the start of the year, taking total of children now affected to 153 million. The report found that extreme hunger has risen by 123% over the past 6 years in Afghanistan, Burkina Faso, Djibouti, Haiti, Kenya, Madagascar, Niger, Somalia and Zimbabwe, the 10 countries with the highest number of United Nations aid appeals driven by extreme weather events.
The US government has said that it has spent up to $700 million in responding to drought in the country. The US Embassy in Mogadishu said America is committed to aiding avert famine in Somalia, which is predicted to kick in from next month. The US government has announced it donated a $700 million relief package to Somalia to help the country fight the ongoing drought. Donated through the United States Agency International Development, USAID, will go towards the provision of food, clean water, farm input, and healthcare services to affected families. In a statement, the U.S. Embassy in Mogadishu said it has rapidly scaled up relief efforts to provide emergency assistance. Washington in the Post said the American people will stand with Somalia in responding to the drought crisis harming nearly half of Somalia's population. The funds will be used to provide relief assistance packages to families in the arid and semi-arid areas and to cushion farmers from losses. Acute food insecurity in Somalia has dramatically worsened since the beginning of 2022, with an estimated 4.8 million people already experiencing severe hunger. According to displacement figures released by non-governmental organizations, more than 755,000 people have been internally displaced in Somalia because of the severe drought this year, bringing the total figure to 1 million people since January 2021. The Somali government has largely blamed the current hunger crisis on the lack of 4 consecutive rainfall and the ongoing war in Ukraine. Mohamed Boro, a legislator at the House of the People of the federal government of Somalia, has died in Mogadishu. The veteran MP had been described as a patriot and as a great leader who had a clear vision for the country's growth and development.
Lower House lawmaker Mohamed Mursal Boro passed away last night in the capital Mogadishu after a short illness, his family has confirmed to state media. Boro, who survived a terror attack in September 15, 2020, hailed from Southwest Regional State. He won a second term in office following his re-election in Baidoa in January. In 2019, a bomb attached to Mr. Mohamed Mursal Boro's car went off in Mogadishu, killing his driver on the spot and inflicting serious injuries on the lawmaker. He also survived that particular attack. The fatal explosion occurred at a crossroad next to the National Theatre, a landmark in the city center. Speaker for the House of the People, Sheikh Adan Madobe, extended his condolences to the public and the late parliamentarian's relatives. In a statement, Madobe said, "On behalf of myself, Parliament leadership and members of Parliament, I offer my condolences to the tragic death of our brother, the late Mohamed Mursal Boro. He was a legend of his time who worked the most for his people and our country." Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud extended his deepest condolences on the death of the Member of Parliament in the capital Mogadishu. A statement from the presidency said the head of state is sharing the grief with the family, the Speaker of the House of the People, lawmakers and the public. Somalia's Premier Hamza Barre also offered his condolences on the death of the lawmaker. A statement from the office of the Prime Minister stated that Mr. Hamza is sharing the grief with the family, the Speaker of the House of the People, the Members of Parliament and the general public. Mr. Hamza said the late Barrow was a citizen who served his country faithfully and played a good role in the development and recovery of our country. In his condolence message, the Prime Minister of the Federal Government of Somalia, Hamza Abdi Barre, asked Allah to bless him with his Jannah. He said the deceased was a patriot who served his country tirelessly.
Police in Karan have arrested 10 people as they crack down by the Banadir police force as criminal gangs intensifies. The 10 remain in custody awaiting arraignment while authorities have appealed for information from members of the public regarding the group.
10 youths belonging to an organized criminal group dubbed as Iyal Wero have been arrested by police officers on patrol in the Karan district, Mogadishu. The spokesperson of the Somali police force, Sadiq Aden, said the group of men were armed with machetes and were on a mission to commit serious crimes within the city.
dhanka kale waxaa sidoo kale jiray howlgal isagana lagula dagaalamaya muqaadaraadka.
The Somali police spokesperson pointed out that the gangs who were also in possession of marijuana were placed in a police cell pending arraignment. The spokesperson has assured the public of their safety and called on those who may have fallen victim to atrocities by that gang to report to police station for further action.
Booliiska bari ee gobolka Banaadir ay ka sameysay degmooyinka qaybta bari ee gobolka Banaadir.
The police force has conducted operations in many parts of the eastern division of the city. We have nabbed some members of the criminal gang Iyal Wero who have disrupted peace here.
The Somali police force has intensified patrols in the Benadir region to ensure the safety of the public. The public has been encouraged to desist from being involved in any criminal activities, particularly the youth. Detectives said that the 10 who belong to the notorious squad Yalwero are responsible for the sudden rise of crime in many parts of the capital. Mogadishu is under a new administration following the removal of Omar Hassan Filish as the governor of Benadir and mayor of Mogadishu. The new administration of Yusuf Hussein Madale has promised to tackle the insecurity affecting Somalia's most populous city. The government of Somalia has said it is committed to eradicate the terrorism in the country, calling on the Somali people to share information with security agencies. The government has also urged members and fighters of the militant group Al-Shabaab to return to The government has also urged members and fighters of the militant group Al-Shabaab to return to their people and surrender to the government.
With COVID-19 exposing the fault lines of education systems globally, more than 130 countries committed to rebooting the education systems and accelerating action to end the learning crisis at the UN Transforming Education Summit. The Summit of Transforming Education, held at the UN General Assembly ahead of the annual leaders meeting, called on the world's nations to ensure that children everywhere from sub-Saharan Africa to the United States don't fall too far behind.
Closing the summit today, Amina Mohamed, the UN Deputy Secretary General, presented the UN Secretary General's vision statement on transforming education, which lays out a path for education in the 21st century and serves as an input to negotiations in preparation of the Summit of the Future, which will be held at the UN General Assembly in 2024. Mohamed told member states that with the right education being deprived to so many, education is losing its power as a great enabler.
And with trust breaking down, our social fabric fraying, our economies changing and our environment under attack, it is clear that education systems are no longer fit for purpose. And that is why the Secretary-General sees the transformation of education as an urgent political imperative for our collective futures. This transformation will not happen overnight, but we must get moving and we must do so today. Ultimately, the transformation of education will only happen if it is demanded by people. And if there's one takeaway from this summit, it is that young people and young students will be the heartbeat of this effort. The movement for the transformation of education has begun to emerge. It must be nurtured, it must be supported. Such a movement can be supported by the 5 world leaders who have accepted the Secretary-General's request to step up as global champions for education transformation. The Emir of Qatar, the President of Sierra Leone, the President of Argentina, and the Prime Minister of Japan, and the President of the European Commission.
Santiago Irazabal, the President of UNESCO General Conference, agreed that more than ever, there is need to treat education as a vital public good.
This global movement for education is gaining ground across the world, but we know the challenges that remain in these troubled times. We must keep the momentum. In shaping the way forward, our ambition must be to bring lasting solutions to critical issues. This is the importance of the 7 global initiatives launched today.
The summit dealt with a crisis in education that has seen some 147 million students missing over half of their in-person instructions since 2020. In 2021, 244 million children and young people were out of school. The pandemic has harmed the learning of more than 90% of the world's children, the largest disruption in history, with half of all countries cutting their education budget, further deepening the crisis.
And those are some of our top stories for this hour. This is Dalsan TV English broadcast.